Good day everyone. Today's video, we're going to talk about the characteristics of the 21st century learners. And we are talking about the learners that we have nowadays. We're going to also compare the characteristics of the learners before and the learners now. Why? Because that will be the basis of some approaches that you will decide to apply in your classroom if you become a teacher someday. We'll be also tackling about the characteristics of the different pedagogies and what could be the possible pedagogy to be applied. Will there be one pedagogy which is considered best over another, or will it be possible that there is a combination of all those pedagogies in your classroom? Now, you will go back to those high school days that your teachers were able to apply these approaches, and probably you may think of other activities that could fit or be appropriate to your subjects in the future if you become a teacher someday. So stay tuned.
Okay, so what are those questions that we have to answer? We have to bear in our minds in order to prepare our lesson. First, how do you handle your class in teaching the identified lessons? First, by opening the topic. How do you open the topic? How do you motivate the students? How do you sustain the interest of the students all throughout, from the start of the class until the end? How do you keep your students get engaged in the activities? By individual or by peer activities? What activities do you provide that ensure the mastery of the students on the concepts learned? What are those group activities, individual activities, and what are those organizers that you give them in order to make the students prove that they have mastered the concepts by transferring the learned ideas or concepts from one form to another? We always say that our learners will be always the center of our teaching and learning process. And your preparation will always be depending on their background. Even in technology, you have to consider their background so that you can even relate to them and be able to also plan ahead of time of what you should utilize in the class. And of course, identify also their exposure on technology so that you can have some adjustments also in your preparation. But one more thing, you have to really be engaged into what they are in. So let us see. Let's have a short game here. Identify what your background is in technology, if you can relate to the present learners that we have. Thumbs up if you're familiar with the social media sites and the gadgets. Thumbs down if not. Let us see if you're among those 21st century learners that we have now. Okay, the first one, Facebook. Of course, you're a millennial like me, so you understand very well how to utilize Facebook. How about Twitter? Twitter, Instagram, Tamagotchi. You know what Tamagotchi is? It's a little digital pet that you really have to take care of it like a real pet with all those needs you have to take care of. If it gets sick, you have to put medicine, you have to bathe it, you have to put food. How about brick games? Oh, a brick game is it was considered as the best game before. That even when when you are sleeping, you can even dream of putting all those bricks in a puzzle. It was an exciting game actually. How about Polly Pocket? A Polly Pocket is a small mini compartment composed of different parts of the house with a little tiny doll, Polly, that she lives in that little pocket. As in literally pocket with all those parts in the house that this little doll can go around and move around. And then Lego, the tiny pieces around that you can form into different shapes. Snake and ladder, thumbs up or thumbs down? How about remote control, toy control car? CD. How about cassette tape? Yeah, the cassette tape is also composed of 14 songs. CD is much more. There are many songs there as long as it could hold. It has the capacity of holding at least more than 40 songs. But in cassette tape, we only had 14 songs there. So the cassette tape has an enclosure of a circular uh, compartment with films, but it can you can play it on a recorder or a tape recorder, cassette tape. And then we have the Prancer. This was very famous before the Facebook arose. And then mini toy film slide. So if you're familiar with the mini toy film slide projector that were being these projectors were being rented during fiestas with a round film that you can place in the projector, and then you have to click it one by one. The picture will be projected. You can see it. That was 5 pesos to 10 pesos before, and it was so fun for children. Multiplex and minus one. Okay, so multiplex and minus one are upgraded version of the cassette uh, tapes, because minus one, when you sing, the voice will be lessened or it will stop only. You can only hear the sound, while multiplex, I guess it's more upgraded. Okay, I guess some of you can relate to those who are very recent, but for those who have those other materials or products of technology 20 years back, those are the only people who can relate on some items here. It is important to note that what we're dealing today is a set of 21st century learners different from the learners 10 years back, 20 years ago. A 21st century learner is said to be a critical thinker. They are creative, they can communicate, they can collaborate. So there are so many creative kids that we have now that you can even see as a proof in the different social media nowadays. Now let's get to know the 21st century learners as compared to the boomers, because most of the teachers perhaps cannot even relate to the Gen Z learners or the 21st century learners, that we have to establish the differences between the two. And those teachers like me, who may think of very traditional sometimes in the classroom, should really bear in our minds as teachers, that we really have to dig on the interests of these Gen Z and their capacities, what they can do, and their other potentials. For the boomers, it's more on what and how for the content, while for the Gen Z, they are more into the process, the how and why, what if, and to explore the real world around them. For the boomers, verbal. For the Gen Z, visual. You have to really show it to them, to demonstrate things to them. For the boomers, sit and listen, then apply. For Gen Z, all together, both of us, let us learn together, try and see. For boomers, step by step providing information sequentially. But for Gen Z, access and manage hyperlinked multimedia information simultaneously and quickly because of the information highway through the help of the internet. Boomers, slow, controlled release of information from limited resources. But for Gen Z, the desire to get engaged into the real setting can lead them to really dig into different and varied information through the use of internet. But for boomers, they can stand alone information. They rely only mostly on printed books or printed media. For boomers, technology is something to learn, but Gen Z, it's technology in their DNA as if they were born with digital technology in their heads. Within their DNA, there is already technology attached to them because most of them, all of them, are very much adept on technology these days. Now, for teachers and the students to get along together as they learn together and as teachers facilitate the learning environment, there is a challenge now. There is a need to bridge the gap between the current teaching practices and the nature and needs of the 21st century learners because we cannot deny the fact that sometimes our system of education or the process that we are into preparation of lesson is more on the traditional ones, but somehow really have to understand that the nature of learners and their needs are different nowadays, that we really have to be at least adept into. What do you notice nowadays with the children around? If you have your small sister or a little brother, or within your neighborhood, you can notice the differences of how they think than those children who were born years back. The children nowadays, especially in the classroom, as they collaborate and talk with each other, they communicate with other classmates, they can exchange their opinions and ideas even as at an early age. The learners nowadays can ask probing questions. They are not just satisfied with giving them the answers on the what and the when, but provide them the how answers, the answers on their questions. Okay. Then connect ideas to personal interests. They can reflect on both the process and product of learning. They can express ideas through a variety of formats. You can even see that how creative these children are, especially in the social sites, creating their own songs, creating their own little small flicks or film clips. They can answer from multiple perspectives and they can construct new knowledge. And because of the limitation on space that YouTube is allowing us, the continuation shall be on the next video. So just please continue by clicking on part 2 video.